Have you ever thought to yourself, I don't know how to feel about this. I don't know what I should feel. Maybe even feeling ashamed for how you do feel? Well, you're definitely not alone. And today I want to get into that a little bit more. Welcome. I'm Peggy Oliveira. Thanks so much for joining me. How we feel about things is something that is really challenging for most people. Even just connecting to our feelings, recognizing that we're feeling something, being able to name our feelings, all of it can be quite challenging for many people, kind of even regardless of trauma history. We're not taught about feelings. We're not taught what to do with them. Really, the things that we're taught tell us that we shouldn't feel what we feel, that it's not okay to feel certain things, sometimes as a male or a female, or about particular experiences. And all of that creates a lot of uncertainty and mistrust within ourselves. One of the things that comes up very often for survivors is the idea of, I don't know how I should feel about this person. And oftentimes that person is their abuser. But there are many times that what they feel really confused or conflicted by is not being sure how they should feel about people surrounding the abuser. So, for example, if it was a sibling, not quite sure how to feel about their other siblings or their parents. Or if it was a parent, not quite sure how to feel about the other parent that didn't know or that didn't do anything or doesn't believe you or isn't very supportive now. There are so many conflicting emotions often that can be present. And I think one of the most important things for people to really recognize, to really let themselves take in, is that there is no way that you should feel. There isn't. However you feel, whatever you feel, is okay. It's not good or bad. It just is. And it's a part of your process. So often there's a lot of shame that people experience when they have feelings, love or affection, sometimes empathy or sympathy for their abuser or for people that have hurt them in some way. There's shame because they think, what is wrong with me? How could I feel this way when this person did this? But there is nothing to be ashamed of. Those varying emotions, that experience of having somebody that you care about, love, or trust, and they hurt you, that creates an incredible conflict within us. And that is part of what kind of creates so much of the unease that we experience, the mistrust that we have in ourselves, because we don't think that we should feel whatever it is that we feel. And sometimes even when we feel shame about feeling one way, but then later we feel the opposite way, we can feel shame about that too. And all of it reinforces that somehow there's something wrong with you. So really let yourself recognize that whether you're in the beginning stages of this healing journey or you're on the other side of it, that the feelings that you have about really anything, I guess, but especially around people in your life, somebody who's abused you or hurt you, somebody who hasn't been supportive, having conflicting feelings about that seem completely contradictory, that can be a very normal part of the process. I've had people who have said, but I still love this person. I still want a relationship with this person. And they feel bad about that. What does it say about them that they could love somebody who's done that? There's nothing wrong with loving somebody who has hurt you. Now, we could argue, is it healthy to have a relationship with that person? And oftentimes the answer is likely going to be no, at least not without doing a lot of healing and being able to set some very clear and important boundaries. But having feelings, wanting a relationship, that's something different. And you feel how you feel. It's not right or wrong. It's not good or bad. It's just what you feel. And when we try to not feel those things, they create more energy. They create more shame, more confusion, more mistrust within our own thoughts and feelings and even intuition. So whether you're saying it to yourself or somebody else is saying to you, how can you feel that way? Or you shouldn't feel that way, or you should feel this way. First, remember that anytime we or anybody else is saying should, it's often from a place of judgment. It's an idea that people hold that isn't necessarily based in reality. And that there really is no should when it comes to how to feel. So saying it to yourself, somebody else saying it to you, as soon as you hear that word should, think, okay, wait a second. There is no way that I should feel. Whatever I feel is okay. Now, working through those feelings, being able to process those feelings, especially if there are conflicting feelings, or if those feelings bring up shame, that's important to work through. Not to change the feeling necessarily, but to process it and metabolize it in a way that allows you to feel settled with it. There is no right way. And what is healthy or good for one person, what works for one person, may not be what works for somebody else. There isn't a way to feel. There certainly isn't a way that you should feel. And when an abuser has been somebody that played an important role in your life or was a part of your life, it is natural that you would have feeling for that person. There may be a lot of anger or disconnect, and so you may not feel any of those feelings, and that's okay. And it's certainly, again, not that you should feel any of those feelings. But in reality, most people do. Even if they're not allowing themselves to recognize it at the time, because they've kind of shut that part off so that they wouldn't feel all that confliction within themselves. But remembering that hate is not the opposite of love. Indifference is the opposite of love. We can only feel that sense of hatred when there are other feelings present. And often those feelings are hurt, pain in some context. So for a lot of people, navigating the feelings of wanting something and not wanting something, feeling a sense of care or love for somebody, and also maybe hating them or despising them or not wanting anything to do with them. All of that can be present at the same time. But when you try to push any of those feelings to the side, they're going to continue to create difficulty for you. And the thing about feelings is that we can avoid them for a while, but they will come back up. And often when they do, it's in a really unpleasant way. And if you've seen videos in which I've talked about how when we try to deny something, it's like trying to keep our hand on a broken jack in the box and not allowing jack to come up. It takes a lot of energy and focus. When we can create space to allow whatever feelings are there to be there without judgment, then we have the ability to process them, to work through them, so that we can settle on what feels right for us individually. And from there, we can connect to, what do I want to do with this? What does this mean for me? And maybe it means not having any relationship with a particular person or group of people. Maybe it means trying to have a relationship in a way that can be more healthy for you by setting really clear boundaries that you can feel confident in enforcing. Because that is a very individual decision as well. And don't ever let anybody tell you what you should or should not do in that context. There certainly can be some aspects that are healthy or not healthy, but that's still a decision for you to make. And as you continue to heal, those decisions will be based from a healthy place, not an unhealthy place. So when you find yourself really having those conflicting ideas, whether it's about somebody who has abused you or somebody that maybe should have known or didn't believe, or whatever the case might be, or even something maybe a little bit different that has nothing to do with abuse, maybe a friend who's hurt your feelings or something like that. Remember that you're feeling what you're feeling for a reason. It doesn't make it wrong or right. It doesn't make the other person necessarily wrong or right. Now, in the case of abuse, it's always wrong. But even in the circumstance of a friend, it's not about whether the friend did something wrong or not. It's, how do I feel about it? And however I feel about it is okay, without judgment. Doesn't mean that you don't work through it. It's just about not judging, not telling yourself that you should feel differently. Because that's really, I can feel pretty confident in saying, that's practically never going to work in a way that you hope that it would when you tell yourself that you should or you should not feel something. It generally tends to create more difficulty and more energy around those feelings. Can you relate to what I've shared? I'd love to hear from you. What came up for you as you notice this? Do you see that applying in other circumstances aside from maybe your abuser or your family? This can happen in any sort of situation, really, but certainly any type of relationship. Having conflicting feelings about something, and especially someone that we care about on some level, can be quite normal when there's been hurt as a part of that. And whether you feel hurt or not is also not wrong or right, because that has no bearing on whether the person actually did something wrong. We can still feel hurt even if somebody didn't do anything wrong. So much of this is about recognizing that whatever you're feeling around anything, for whatever reason, your feelings are not wrong. Again, they may be unhealthy, but it doesn't make them wrong. We feel and have the capacity to feel what we feel for a reason. And the more healing you do, the healthier, or from a more healthy place, those feelings will come. And the healthier your choices will be. The more you'll trust in yourself. So if you have some difficult feelings about something, instead of immediately judging, you'll be able to sit with that and really kind of process and discern, what is it that I'm really feeling? What is it that I really want? And so often we tell ourselves that what we're feeling is wrong because we think that what we want as a result of that makes us a bad person. And that is generally not going to be the case either. So share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe and click the bell for notifications. And if you find it helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up so other people can more easily find it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll look forward to seeing you next time.